What's up guys, FlamingVictini here, and this time I'm going to be post-narrating my second SPL game of this season. This time I'm going to be playing Meru for RU, and he's brought a team that's very typical of him. He has, well, it's a little different, but he has Alamomola, which is certainly something I expect him to run, as well as a Diancie. He has a Bronzong, which will actually prove to be an annoyance to my team. Bronzong and Registeel are two mons that I don't like to see with this team, but they're not like unmanageable. He's got a Drapion. I did expect a Dark type or Pursuit Trapper from him. He's got a Golbat, which is really interesting. Double poison, I never noticed that, but it's pretty cool. It provides the defog support, and it like checks the grass types and stuff like that, and also fighting types. And he's got Virizion, which is like some offensive presence grass type, which is pretty cool on his end. I've brought a team with an ORAS, and like looking at Meru's replays, I noticed that like the bulky water, like if I had freeze dry, I could like nail his bulky water as hard on the switch, and like otherwise like he had like zero switch-ins to ORAS. I also considered Abomasnow, Life Orb Abomasnow, or Mega Abomasnow, and yeah, I decided on ORAS because I liked it a lot and it worked pretty well. On this team, it rather than Abomasnow, it like helps me check Fletchinder too, which is pretty nice, and it has surprisingly good bulk. It has like a really solid HP stat and a pretty decent special defense stat, and a not too shabby defense stat, so it's actually really durable too. And so, looking at his team though, he has that Bronzong, and before ORAS can put in a ton of work, I will need to eliminate that Bronzong, but otherwise it can just fire off Hyper Whizzes and Freeze Dries and do a ton of damage to anything, if not just grab a few kills. So I'm definitely going to keep that in mind. He's got a Golbat, which hard counters my Tangrowth, but I can knock it off, which is pretty good. And Tangrowth can check 4 of his 6 members. It can Focus Blast Drapion too, which is good. Pelipper, I'm taking a book from I'm taking a page from Meru's book here and using Pelipper. It just fit well with the team of like providing the defog support and the anti-fighting type bulky water kind of thing. Got Scarf Metacham on my team, plus Trapper Houndoom, which is a core I like a lot, and Houndoom helps me out with stuff like Meloetta too, and Steelix finishes off the team. So yeah, basically let's just get that's just the team. Let's just get right into it. So he's gonna lead off with this Alamomola, as I lead off with my Tangrowth. Now here, I wasn't sure what he wanted to do. I thought I could have knocked off here. I could have knocked off, expecting Golbat to switch in, or for him to stay in and I remove his leftovers. The reason I make this play of switching out into Steelix is because I did not want to get Toxic immediately if he had the Toxic. I wasn't sure if he'd had the Toxic because he does have the Bronzong right there, which often runs Toxic, so I wasn't sure if this would be Toxic or if it'd be Knockoff, because I mean, Hoopa is also a new threat, so I could see Knockoff Alamomola. It could also be Mirror Coat, so I could have gone for the knockoff, but I didn't want to get Toxic with my Tangrowth, hence I made the switch into Steelix. And even then, I would be willing to, in some situations, I would be willing to let Steelix take a Scald to Toxic this Alamomola, because in like my testing, like the status game, you have to play pretty smart, otherwise you can get screwed over by the status game. Although I didn't want to, now right here, I didn't want to go for that Toxic because I wasn't sure what set his Diancie was, and if it had Heal Bell, it would certainly not be worth it. By going to his Pelipper, I also have the chance of burning myself, and I actually would not be upset at all if I got burned myself, because this means that he can't Toxic me. And that is really great, because it means Pelipper can sit around a lot more. Pelipper often ends up being a prime Toxic target, and even though a burn is annoying, if you can actually like get burned and not Toxic, it's actually like surprisingly like really like good in some situations. Not every situation, but it's good in some situations. So now I decide that there's no point, like at this point, there's no point scouting again for the Toxic, and he might protect again. So I'm just gonna fire off some Scalds. So I just go for a Scald. I'm just gonna fish for a burn right here. I don't have, well, I could have Toxic with my Licks, but I just like, oh, let me just get a burn and I'll pressure him with Tangrowth and ORAS if I need to. But he actually goes directly to his Zong, and that's the first Scald on here. I really would love a burn on this Zong, so I go for a second Scald, don't get that burn, and that's definitely especially defensive based on the damage. Now, I don't want to take a Toxic here, so I just switch out into my Licks. as he just goes for the Toxic. Now, I could have set up my rocks here, but I did not want to take an HP Fire or an Earthquake, and I wanted to see what he had, and I also thought that if he switches out, it would be to his Alamomola, so I decided to switch out to my Tangrowth, and he does go to his Alamomola. Now here, I'm fearing that he might have the Miracoat, so I just decided to go for a knockoff. It'll also remove his leftovers if he has it, and he actually goes to Golbat, so I get to remove its Eviolite, which is really, really great for me. Now, I just switch out to my Pelipper here. The reason I don't go to my Steelix is because I fear this thing has Super Fang, and I really don't want to take a Super Fang with my Steelix, but I can beat out this Golbat if it's the standard like Brave Bird, Super Fang, Roost, Defog. But he actually reveals Toxic here, and that's really, really annoying for me. Now, I decide rather than just going for a Defog, I'll just fire off a Scald and try to burn something, and that's exactly what I do as he goes the third switch into Bronzong, and I still do not burn this, so there's like a 34% chance of me not burning those 3 Scalds, and that definitely is going to play a role later in the game to be unable to burn this Bronzong. I'm assuming he switched in his Zong, expecting me to defog right there, but I felt as if I went for defog way too early, like I felt as if it might be more useful to like because he can get up his rocks. He can get up his rocks over and over, even though it does give me more opportunities to try to Scald Burn him. Like, I didn't want to go for a defog too early. Now, right here on this turn, I think I definitely should have gone for a defog. He had no reason to stay in with his Bronzong at all, and I could have gotten a defog off right there, which would have been nice, but instead I get a Scald Burn on that Alamomola, which is also pretty nice. So I think I go into my Tangrowth right here as I think he just fires off a Wish, so he can just keep himself healthy. I'm going to go for a second knockoff. If he chooses to stay in, I can knock it off. If he chooses to go to his Golbat, I don't really lose too much. And if he switches out to something else, I remove his item. So he actually goes to his Drapion and reveals that it is Shuckaberry Drapion. Now, originally I was thinking that this might be like some Pursuit attacker. I kind of doubted that it was specially defensive Toxic Spikes kind of thing, but I did think it was like a Pursuiter. And when I see that Shuckaberry, I think it's SD. So removing the Shuckaberry is definitely great for me because it means Steelix can check it a lot better, because now it won't be able to live in EQ. So he actually goes straight for the EQ, predicting my Steelix. A good play on his end. Here I think I make another slight misplay. This turn and the turn on some early turns with the Pelipper I think were a little poor. Oh, sorry about that. But I go for the EQ. I was fearing him trying to fire off a second EQ, predicting my Stealth Rocks, which were extremely obvious, because I like Stealth Rocks were so obvious. I thought he might try to go for a second EQ, weaken out my Steelix so that next time he comes in he can SD and then threaten me out, or like threaten an Oko basically. But so I just decided to go for an Earthquake. I'll get off solid damage anyway. I was thinking that if he switches out to like Bronzong or something, then I can just get out my rocks on that or whatever. But he actually goes to his Alamomola. I don't want to take a Scald right here, so I'm going to switch out into my Pelipper. I don't want to go into my Tangrowth because I risk a burn right there. And by going into my Pelipper, I can just roost off all this damage anyway without any problem. And I can, if he goes for like a knockoff, I can see that he has knockoff. I can see what he has basically. And he decides to go into his Diancie. Now, I get off that roost and I have a Tangrowth right here. I could Scald this Diancie and I could live any one hit, I think. Actually, I don't know if I can tank max special attack modest, or quiet rather, Life Orb Moonblast. But he actually goes for the Moonblast right there, and really important, that thing is a max roll. I am AV Tangrowth because my team is a bit Sharpedo weak, and I don't like being weak to Sharpedos, so that 44% is actually a max roll from Trick Room Diancie. That's offensive Trick Room Diancie based on like the whole like Life Orb last really strong kind of thing. So here I did not calculate at the time, however, so I decided to play it safe and just go for a Giga Drain, in case like I go for something else then it gets like a higher roll, but he wouldn't have been able to, like, that was like an absolute max roll with the Moonblast right there. It's not going to play a huge role in the end game, but I think it's good to know, because later on in the end people were assuming, okay, we'll get to that later. So I decided to just go into my Steelix as he just goes for a knockoff, and that is 13%, which is actually a pretty good rate of damage, considering that he can bring in his Drapion on a few stuff. I really need to be careful around the Drapion. I don't want to give it like a free SD and let my Steelix get way too weakened, because that could be really bad for me. So here, I decided I need to get out my rocks now. I can't just start fooling around. And I finally get up those rocks, which I should have done the last time the Drapion came in, but it's okay. I go to my Tangrowth right here as he just goes for a Scald. Going for Pelipper didn't accomplish much. Like, if I went for Pelipper and just roosted off, like, I felt like I wasn't accomplishing much, and I was just giving him an opportunity to wish around or something. So I go into my Tangrowth and I actually go for the Focus Blast, expecting him to try to go into his Drapion yet again to, like, weaken up my Steelix a little bit more, but he actually goes to his Virizion, and this does play a small role. It means that my Sludge Bomb cannot 2-hit KO this Virizion. So yeah, that's kind of bad. So I have to go to my Pelipper right here and sack it off to a close combat. Otherwise, I might have been able to just well, actually, I couldn't tank a CC from that range anyway. I guess that 44% might have mattered a little bit. I think I got 2 regen switch-ins though, so maybe not. But basically, I have to go to my Scarf Medicham right now to revenge this Virizion. And Meru makes a really aggressive but really good play right here by going for the going to his Golbat. He has that Drapion, so he knows I won't go for the Psychic move, and I have Thunder Punch, so I'm not going to go for that on Virizion. Usually you don't run Ice Punch, but I was actually contemplating Ice Punch on this Medicham, and if I had that, I might have gone for that, and that might have changed the game completely. If, like, this play was really good for Meru, because it maintains the momentum, and it, like, lets him keep on around 2, which is going to be really important in the end. Like, you're going to really need to start counting the Mons that are in the game at the end of the game. This is really just building up for, like, the end game, really. So I decide I need to be a little more aggressive now, finally start bringing in my Auroras and pounding away at his team. So I bring in my Auroras on the Golbat's Roost, and I'm just going to fire off a Hyper Voice right here. That Bronzong is down to 70% after that Rock, which is good. I get a little crit right there. I don't think it really mattered too much. I got like an extra 10%, and that, I mean, it's really not going to matter as much as it would have to get Scald Burns on this Bronzong, or not miss that Focus Blast on the Virizion. So he's going to go for the Toxic right here. I didn't want to go directly into my Houndoom because I was fearing him going for the Earthquake. I really did not know what coverage he had. I could easily see him being HP Fire Bronzong to have a little more security versus, like, Durant, because, like, Honeclaw's Durant seems like a pretty big threat to him. Especially since, yeah, Honeclaw's Durant seems like a threat to him. I mean, Golbat kind of checks it. Aloe kind of not really checks it. And if he doesn't have HP Fire in his Zong, he can't really beat it with his Zong. So I could easily see HP Fire Zong, but I didn't want to risk an EQ on the Houndoom switch, and so I went into my Tangrowth. As he makes a good play, goes for the Toxic and poisons me right here. So I decide to make another aggressive switch, predict his Golbat right here, and double to my Auroras, and this is going to work out really well for me because I can fire off another Hyper Voice, and he goes into his Bronzong, and it's at 46%, so this is still not enough damage to OHKO this Bronzong with another Hyper Voice, which really sucks for me. I decide it's time to just go to my Houndoom and finish off this Bronzong. Now this right here is the biggest turn of the game. This is the biggest turn of the game. So there's actually the actual rule on this is that Pursuit can do like a maximum of 39%, like minimum of like something 30%, something around there, 30 like 1 or something, if I remember correctly. So Pursuit, okay, this is my thought process. The reason he has switch-ins to Houndoom and Alomomola and Diancie, and he has switch-ins, but you may ask, why would he switch? This Bronzong is already like so weakened to like 37%. Why would he switch? It's because I'm pretty sure at this point, my way to win, what I'm going for is I'm trying to get in Auroras as many times as I can to hit his team really, really hard to soften it up so that Medicham can win. And that's really what I'm going for, a Medicham win right here, because Scarf Medicham can blow through his team if I click all the right moves and weaken the right bonds. So that's really what I'm going for. If I can remove that Golbat, Tangrowth also has like a decent chance. I made the Drapion too. Tangrowth also has a chance to clean off the game too. And if I remove all his fast mons, then Auroras can run through him as well. But I go for the Pursuit right here, and you see that I get a very close roll to killing him, but I do not get the actual roll. When I was in this series, like, the Pursuit was kind of obvious to me, and I felt like he would stay in, so I wanted to crunch. But at the same time, if he switched out on a crunch, I think I pretty much just lost. And by pursuing, I gave myself the chances that he would switch, as well as the chances that I would get a roll to kill him anyway. and I don't get either of those, so this Bronzong is able to live on a sliver, and this really changes the game. One reason it changes is because my Houndoom dies, and that Houndoom is something I could have maintained as a sack later on. Let's presume that I killed this Bronzong with my Houndoom, and he goes to his Diancie. Then I can go to my Tangrowth and tank a Moonblast and like just fight back and maintain that Houndoom as a sack for later on, which you'll see will be really, really important. If he goes Virizion, I can make an aggressive switch. I can just go to Tangrowth. I don't even have to make an aggressive switch to Metachamp, because I'm pretty sure, actually, I don't know, Leaf Blade would probably, I don't know if Leaf Blade would do 24% actually, but I could play around the Virizion for sure. Like, I can go to my Tangrowth and Sludge Bomb, and if he's, like, I have ways to deal with the Virizion switch-in. The hardest switch-in he can go into that would be difficult to take on was his Drapion, but he wouldn't really go into that because I can Fire Blast it, and but switching around it would be a little difficult. But he wouldn't go to Drapion because it's not really that preferable for him. It doesn't threaten out my Houndoom as much. So basically, by maintaining the Houndoom sack, and then considering the mons he has to go into it, my Tangrowth would most likely come out after that, and that kind of pressures him to go into his Golbat or his Drapion, and that gives me another opportunity to go to my ORAS and try to like hit him really hard, and it's just really, really great for me. By losing my Houndoom, I not only now have to go into something and kill this Bronzong, which means he gets all the momentum. Like, to finish off the Zong, he gets the momentum. Whereas, if I finish off the Zong and then save my Houndoom, I still don't lose that much momentum because he's forced to revenge kill me, and I can use that to my advantage to switch out to a solid mon, since Tangrowth takes on the two stuff that mainly take on my Houndoom. So, if I killed this Zong, that would happen. But since I didn't kill this Zong, now I'm forced to go into something. I go into my Metacham right here because I can't really go into anything else, and I just go for the Thunder Punch here. The reason I don't go for the high jump kick was because if he wanted to switch into, actually, I mean, HJK was probably fine, but I was really scared of missing. I was honestly really, really scared of missing, because yeah, I mean, if I went for HJK, the other thing that it did was that it meant that he might have some like trick with like protecting with his Alomomola, which would be a little not so great. This does have the downside though of letting in his Drapion, and I think that may be the big reason, but that I should not have gone for the HJK. I should have gone for the Thunder Punch instead for the HJK. I bring in my Steelix on the knockoff, and I can still tank an EQ, which is great for me. So what I do here is I pull a double switch into my Auroras, expecting him to go into his Alomomola. And now here, this Scald on my Auroras is a roll. It is a roll in my favor, and I go for the Freeze Dry. He's really specially defensive, so he takes it. He goes for the Scald. I live on a sliver, and he gets the burn. And this was the next huge turn, in my opinion, that really changed the game. If he did not burn me, I would have either finished off this Alomomola, or I would have killed something else on his team. And it also meant that I potentially would be able to save my Auroras for later. But really the bigger thing is that I kill something on his team, and that he is forced to revenge kill me, rather than me being forced to revenge kill him. And this, you'll see at the end game. I'll explain at the end game how this like all would factor in. Now it's not really like hard, like because of these like missed kills or kills where it may not have been a kill. You can't really like project it to the end game because the turns would have played out differently, so the sequences of moves would have been different. But at the end, I still think, though, if I killed that Bronzong and if my Auroras lived, it would have been better than me. Definitely better than me, than worse for me. That's for sure. So, I think, and my personal belief is that, well, actually, the way I'm speaking, okay, whatever. So I go into my Tangrowth here. I can't go directly into my Steelix because it will die to a knockoff plus, a EQ. Now, because I showed Focus Blast, I don't think he'll go for like another knockoff or like an EQ or something like that, and I think he'll actually go for a poison move, so I use that to pivot into my Steelix on the poison jab, and this means that I can tank an Earthquake right there. As you see, it does 27%, which is, he has some funky rolls on his Drapion. Like, he got like a low roll earlier, this was like a max roll on my Megalix, and the earlier 27% was like a lower roll. It's like some funky rolls, but I'm able to finish off that Steelix with the heavy slam, and he goes into his Virizion. See, this is an example. Like, he goes into his Virizion to revenge something. I can switch in. So I actually switch into my Tangrowth because I don't think he'll go for the CC. Otherwise, if I thought he would have gone for the CC, I might have gone to my Medicham. So what I do instead is I go to Tangrowth on the Leaf Blade, and now predicting the CC, I go into my Medicham. And this means that I can now go for the Zen Headbutt and kill off that Virizion, which is great for me. So, actually, now that I think about it, if I went for the high jump kick on this Virizion, it means I'm actually going to run a calc right now. Let's see, Medicham versus Diancie. With Trick Room runs HP, I think. Okay, never mind. So I wouldn't have been able to OHKO this Diancie, but I would have been able to do more damage than this Zen Headbutt. Okay, so basically, I think then it would become a true 50-50. Okay, so right here, if he Moonblasts my Medicham, I pretty much lose because his Golbat can outrun, and it walls my Tangrowth to infinity, and it can Brave Bird my Steelix for the final, 2% left it has, even though I can kill the Diancie. But if I switch out on a Trick Room, I'm pretty sure I lose, because if I switch out to Steelix, I can... Steelix can at most waste one turn of Trick Room. Tangrowth can live a Moonblast from this range for sure and KO this Diancie back with Giga Drain. But if I don't waste enough turns, his Golbat might be able to Brave Bird my whole team to death, and I won't be able to regen all that off anyway. One Regenerator won't be enough after a Life Orb Moonblast, since my Assault Vest got knocked off especially, to take a Brave Bird from that Golbat and waste that one extra turn of Trick Room. You'll see the turns of Trick Room right here. If I went for the HJK instead of the Zen Headbutt on the Virizion, it means he might have been able to go to his Golbat. In the case that he went to his Golbat, it would probably be me sacking Steelix, as he could he would actually probably go for the Roost and then Brave Bird my Steelix, as I could go back into my Medicham, then go for the Zen Headbutt, and possibly 2-hit KO this Diancie. As you see, the Zen Headbutt there does 39%, so I can possibly 2-hit KO this Diancie if he chooses to switch out, as well as Zen Headbutt that Golbat. I'm pretty sure Golbat would die without the Eviolite. Yeah, okay, so how much health is Golbat at right now? There's a lot of things going on in this game. I thought about this game quite a bit, but there's a lot going on. Oh, they're not showing us how much health the Golbat has. I'm pretty sure, after a Roost, I'm pretty sure it'll be around 90-something%, so maybe it would have been a roll with my Zen Headbutt. So I didn't want to go to my HJK, because I didn't want his, I didn't want to go for the HJK, because I didn't want his Golbat to come in, but in retrospect, it might have been better, although I think I might have forced me to rely on a roll on the Golbat. So instead I go for the Zen Headbutt here. I have the chance of flinching him, which will win me the game, and now that he gets off that Trick Room, this is pretty much lost. This situation was actually pretty much lost. Maybe I should have just gone for the HJK on the Virizion. I think another play I could have done was I could have HJK'd the Bronzong rather than Thunder Punching, so his Drapion couldn't come in. Yeah, so now that he's gotten these Trick Rooms, there's no way for me to win. Absolutely not. So I go to my Tangrowth. I was on timer pressure here, so I was trying to just find a way to stall his Trick Room turns. By going to Tangrowth, I do live a Moonblast. The max roll is 66% without my Assault Vest, so something like that. So I would live a Moonblast plus Rocks plus Toxic, and then I was thinking I could switch around and try to waste all of his Trick Room turns. Unfortunately though, because I'm not able to take 2 Moonblasts after Regenerator, so even if I went Tangrowth, lived this Moonblast, switched to my Steelix to waste a turn of Trick Room, and went back into my Tangrowth to live another Moonblast, which is what I was going for to win, I would not have been able to live the Moonblast, and I would have died, and so this Diancie would have swept my team. If I went to my Steelix and then to my Tangrowth, his best play is to just go for the Moonblast right there. And weaken my Tangrowth. That'll be 3 turns of Trick Room left when my Steelix dies to the Moonblast on the sack, and then by going for the Moonblast, he'll have 2 turns of Trick Room left, but he'll weaken my Tangrowth enough that he can kill it with a Brave Bird from the Golbat, and then the Golbat has 1 more turn of Trick Room left to finish off my Medicham, so that still would have won. The other thing I could have done was I could have sacked my Medicham, and then gone to my Tangrowth, and then his best play again is to just stay in with the Diancie, and let my Tangrowth let my Tangrowth take the Moonblast, kill off the Diancie, then go to his Golbat and go for the Roost. He can easily Roost off on anything my Tangrowth wants to go to. I can switch to my Steelix and still have one more turn of Trick Room left, but it won't be enough for Heavy Slam to OHKO the Golbat, and then he can just Roost it off and Brave Bird finish off my team. So basically, the only ways he could have lost in this endgame situation is if he choked. One way he could choke is if I go to Steelix, sack it to this Diancie, go to my Tangrowth, and he switches out to his Golbat as he switches out to his Golbat as a Giga Drain, and that way I can waste one extra turn of Trick Room by tanking a Brave Bird from that Golbat, meaning that I can go to my Medicham and Zen Headbutt sweep his team. That's one way he could choke. The other way he could choke is if I went Tangrowth, live the Moonblast without getting crit, and then, no, actually, this way actually guarantees loses. There's no way for him to choke. I was just trying to find a way to avoid the Trick Room turns, hoping that he'd get some, like, super low rolls or something like that. It was like, I had no time to, and it was pretty much a lost position if he did not choke. The other way he could have choked is if I stayed in with Medicham, sacked it to the Diancie, went to my Tangrowth on the Diancie, and switched out to and then he switched out to his Golbat on my Tangrowth as I switched to Steelix. Basically, switching out his Diancie would have choked him in the would have choked the game away in the situation if I took those two routes, but otherwise it would have won. So he does win with the Diancie sweep right here. Even though I did not have the Assault Vest, I was able to live the crit, but it did not really matter in the endgame result, and he's able to finish me off with one more Life Orb hit to left as well. I mean, even if I went for the HJK, on the Verizon at the end, I think he could have gone Diancie, and at that point the game is a 50-50. If he goes Golbat, okay, it's at 65%. Okay, so that makes things a lot different, because 65 plus 25 is like 90%, which means looking at the Zen Headbutt roll, if I get like a little bit higher than average roll, I can KO that Golbat. So if I HJK'd on the Verizon at the end and he went to his Golbat, I sack my Steelix on a Roost as he Brave Birds my Steelix, go to my Medicham, and then I have to get the Zen Headbutt roll on the Golbat to win. I can 2-hit KO the Diancie on the switch if he chooses to do that, and that would win. But if I went for the HJK and then he went to Diancie regardless of me going for the HJK rather than the Zen Headbutt, then I think it's a 50-50, because if I switch out on a Moonblast, then I'm pretty sure I can win. But, yeah, if I switch out on actually, I think his best play is to go for a Moonblast. It's not a direct 50-50. If I HJK on his Trick Room, I think I pretty much win. I'm pretty sure... actually no. Actually, that may not be correct, because if I Moonblast if I HJK on the switch as he Trick Rooms, and then he dies to the next Life Orb hit as I like sack Steelix or something, then he has 3 turns of Trick Room left with his Golbat, which should be more than enough to 2-hit KO my Tangrowth and kill my Medicham. So I think basically the game was on lock at this very, very end game, and I think the game got completely lost on that turn where the freeze dry, where I freeze dried the Alamomola. Let's go back to it. Let's go back to that turn. I'm going to try to highlight all the turns where I think I could have played better. They're definitely, like, not Scald Burning the Bronzong was, pretty big in this game, and, Focus Blasting the Virizion, I think it wasn't really that big, but it might have made a difference, and, I got a crit on that Bronzong, which kind of helped. I mean, 10%. In that situation, it kind of did make a difference, but I mean, definitely not as much as the Scald Burns would have did. I'm trying to find that turn where he Scalds and Burns me. Let's see. Turn 39. Let's go to it. So, yeah, this turn right here. If I freeze dried and he did not KO me with the Scald Burn, then that means I would have gotten another kill, and the momentum also would have been on my side, which is exactly what I would have wanted. As you saw right there, the momentum was, in his favor, really. I had to, play really aggressively around him to, maintain as many mons as I could, and that Trick Room at the end game was just too difficult to handle. If I had one more sack at the end, I could have wasted that one last turn of Trick Room and won with Medicham. Guaranteed. Unless I miss Zen Headbutt, but I might have actually gotten him in range of Thunder Punch, to be completely honest, but, yeah, that one extra sack, if I managed to get the game flow on the same track, or a track even better for me, that a one extra sack pretty much just won the game. The other turn was the turn I pursued this Bronzong, it lived and it gyro balled my Houndoom. That was another big turn. I think some other turns where I brought out my Medicham in the mid game. Maybe if I clicked a different attack, like if I HJK'd the Bronzong rather than Thunder Punching it, so his Drapion didn't come in but something else came in, that I think might have been better. In all honesty, I think that was a better play, HJKing right there rather than Thunder Punching. Also then after that, it was just the early game stuff of me not getting the Scald Burns that really bit me. But it was a very, very close game. I do think I misplayed a little bit in those few slots. They weren't major misplays for sure, but I think there were better moves to be made on some turns, and by not making those moves, I put myself in a position at the end game where if he got the Scald Burn, or if I did not get the Pursuit roll, I would not have been able to win. I could have crunched that Bronzong rather than pursuing it, and I had no control over the hacks this game, but I do think that I did have some control on some turns where if I made different choices, slightly different choices, I could have won this game. But it was definitely a very, very enjoyable game. Kind of long. I think this recording is actually like 30 minutes, so hopefully you guys were able to bear through that. This game had a lot of stuff going on in it. I think it was a really, really good game, and I played hard, but I think I could have played a little bit better, and that could have made the difference between a win or a loss at the end, despite all the RNG. Like, there wasn't even that much hacks in this game, but I would definitely say it was in Meru's favor. But at the same time, I think I could have played better and won this game. I also think Meru could have played better. I think he could have saved his Alomomola at the end. That would have given him some more insurance. But it wasn't that necessary, because at the end game it was pretty much lost once my Auroras died. I think there was like pretty much no way to win. Just seeing the end game, there's like I had to Zen Headbutt flinch him, but pretty much. But the other thing I think he could have done was on Drapion versus Tangrowth, and when he poison jabbed my Steelix on the switch in, I think he could have just spammed knockoff. I think he would just spammed knockoff. He pretty much guaranteed a kill right there, and that pretty much guaranteed him the game. He didn't really need to go for a poison jab there as I switched into my Steelix, because like even if I stayed in and like focus blasted his Drapion, he's not in a horrible situation, because he can he has stuff to threaten me basically. So like for example, the Golbat pretty much gets a kill when it can come in because my Steelix gets so low. Yeah, I don't know. I think he could have played it a little differently. I could have played it a little differently, but the game is how it is, and wow, I think I'm rambling at this point, so I think I'm just going to end it right now. I hope you guys enjoyed that. It was a pretty long post-narration, but I think there was a lot of stuff you can learn from this game, and I think it was a pretty good game. So yeah, after this game, I am 1-1 in SPL, and I will be playing the next week against Atomic Llama, so I'm looking forward to that game as well. But that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please leave a thumbs up, comment any suggestions, leave a like if you enjoyed as obviously. And that's it. I'll see you guys later.